Hi, this is Rachel from In the Library of Lady VLA, and this is my vlog review for Company of Liars by Karen Maitland. I actually have a slight confession about this book. I started it last August and finished it a couple of days ago. It's not like I'm slow. I sort of got to about 200 pages in and then got distracted by the lots of other books that I have and sort of put it down and didn't go back to it for ages. But kind of last week I was like, I need to finish this. It's sort of hanging around half finished and I want to finish it because it was what I've read was good, and it's just I was just thinking, well, I've forgotten everything, but I went back to start and reread all of it, and I finished it the other day. I'm gonna read the blurb to you. Plague has come to England, and the lies you tell will be the death of you. A scarred trader in holy relics, a conjurer, a musician and his apprentice, a one-armed storyteller, a young couple on the run, a midwife and a room-reading girl. A group of misfits bands together to escape the plague, but in their midst lurks a curse darker and more malign in the pestilence they flee. That is sort of one heck of a blurb to get your attention. It's basically historical fiction set in 1348, which is when the plague broke out in England, and basically this group of 9 travellers all sort of end up getting together and sort of travel and try and outrun the plague, when towns are all getting shut up and just bodies everywhere. But it's told in this sort of first person perspective of Camelot, which is this sort of old man who sort of sells holy relics, which are kind of just fake kind of bits of bone, claiming they're saints' bones or whatever, basically all a big con. But it's sort of stories told through his perspective, and everyone's got secrets. And sort of over the course of the book, where we're all travelling through different places, and some lies are not so easy to keep hidden. But it's a pretty character-driven book, and all the characters are really sort of individual and interesting, and got quite a lot of layers to them. Camelot, the old man, sort of, you think he's sort of just a nice kind of old guy, but sort of hints start appearing later in the book that makes you sort of question, is he all that reliable as a sort of narrator? And the other characters, this little white-haired girl called Narigorn, the creepiest little girl you're ever going to see, and sort of just you kind of see as she goes along she's just got no empathy for anyone, and get very sort of wigged out by her, and she's sort of reading runes and stuff and saying how she's just telling the truth, she doesn't lie, because you lose the gift of rune reading if you lie. And she's quite an ominous little creature. There's also Pleasance, who's this sort of young woman who's like a midwife, and very likeable woman, although you start to get sort of, she gets frightened and you sort of wonder what her secret is, and fate kind of catches up to her, which is pretty sad. And there's also Zophiel, who's like a conjurer, has this fake mermaid, and is genuinely not a nice guy. Sort of, you want to punch him a bit, because he's pretty horrible and has some of the other characters, and has a fairly opinionated way of just mouthing off, really. he probably gets what he deserves. Because he wasn't that. Although you sort of can feel some empathy for him, it's not all that likeable. And there's also the musician and his apprentice, Rodrigo and Joffre. And Rodrigo is probably one of the most likeable characters, although he sort of does a few things you usually wouldn't forgive. Joffre's a bit of a drinking, gambling, sort of moody teenager who kind of had his way too often, just needed a bit of discipline. He was an alright character, just a bit petulant and deserved a good beating. Probably my favourite character was Cygnus, who's this sort of one-armed storyteller sort of boy who sort of has one arm and then has a swan's wing, and you sort of wonder, is that real? But he was a really interesting character and got a lot of sort of cruel remarks off Zophiel and some of the other people, which is not quite all that fair. But I liked him, found him quite a definitely intriguing character to figure out what his lie was. And there's also this young couple, Adela and Osmond, who seem perfectly alright, and Adela's pregnant and so sort of has to take it a bit easy, or travelling around everywhere. And Osmond's a nice sort of painter, likes carving toys as well, but their secret definitely surprised me a lot. Was not expecting what their lie was, but sort of the book flows really well, and you sort of get sort of to the point where you don't really want to put it down because the tension really sort of builds up, especially towards the last sort of 100 pages. So it's sort of insane, kind of how it's like, oh my god, what is going on? And sort of the writing, like, because it's basically a historical fiction novel, can't have too much sort of modern stuff, and the writing sort of felt kind of true to the medieval period without having too much ye's, thous, and all those other kind of oldie worldy nonsense. And it was a really enjoyable book. I was really glad that I actually went back and finished it after so long, because it was well worth it. It's a creepy sort of mystery, sort of obviously historical, and just seeing how people can interact in the strangest ways, and how they're just deceived of other people, and how appearances definitely don't sort of match up with what the truth is. A lot of sort of false personas in this book, and I really recommend it. I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5, and I highly recommend it. Karen Maitland's got another book also called The Owl Killers, and I have that now as well, which is set in sort of similar medieval period, which should be very intrigued to see, because it's probably similar kind of mystery, creepy, sort of a bit sinister, which should be really interesting. And also, on note of the cover, I really like this cover as well, sort of with all the text and everything. It sort of fits the period. That wolf's head's rather significant as well. So overall, I think I'd give the cover 4 out of 5 as well. So there you go. That's Company of Lies. And I'll post a better plot description on the blog post, and I hope other people would perhaps like to give this a read as well.